Okay, what's up, everybody? We're back, and we're going to talk about size maps and hard references today. Hard references is going to be something that everybody needs to know about. And as you're building your game, you're going to get to certain points where you're going to have a choice. Do you make a hard reference or not? And a lot of the time when we're starting out, we don't know what the hard reference is. We don't know that we're creating them. And that can lead to a lot of problems down the road, which is going to cause more work to go back and change all that stuff. This was something I didn't understand when I started, and it's definitely something that everybody needs to know about. I just have a cube in here right now, and I just went to Quixel and I downloaded a 4K texture for it. And I wanted a 4K texture because I wanted something that was going to be a little bit bigger. And then I made a actor blueprint and I just put that cube in. So as you can see, this is my blueprint. There's nothing in here. It's just a stock blueprint right now. I just added this cube, and this cube has my 4K texture on it. So before we get into the hard ref, I just want to show that this is the blueprint I made. It's my BP cube. If I right click on that, I can go to size map here. Now this is very important. You should be checking this on all of your actors, on everything that you make. So if you go into size map on this cube tells me this is going to be a hierarchy list of everything that's inside of that cube. So at the top here, you can see that it says BP cube. That's my blueprint. That blueprint that I made that just has a cube in it is 123 megabytes. Now you can change this up here for disk size or memory size. So if I put that cube into my world, it's going to be taking up 45 megabytes of RAM, of memory. I'm just going to leave it on disk size for now. So this cube is 123 megabytes. And then if we go down one level, you can kind of see how the next level is going to highlight. Out of that 123.7, the static mesh for that chamfered cube is 123.7. So the whole blueprint is that static mesh. Then if we go down one more, you can see 123.7 again. That's going to be this material instance that the cube is using. So basically the cube itself is not taking up anything. The static mesh itself is so small we don't even see it here. So the 4K material is basically the entire size of this blueprint. So then if we go into that material, you can see that we have this big square that says right there, dark marble 4K with the D. So this is going to be the diffused texture inside the material. So this one texture is 92 megabytes. And then we have our 4K ORD texture. So that's going to be our occlusion, roughness, and displacement. That's 25. And then we have our 4K normal, which is 4 megabytes. And then this is our base material here, which is 2 megabytes. And then there's some smaller stuff under it. So you can see how this breaks down everything that's inside of that. So we can use this to check for hard references too. So I'm going to close this out, and we're going to just try and remember that this cube blueprint's about 120 megabytes. And then this is my first person character blueprint. And this is the stock first person character template. So now I can do the same thing, and I can go to this first person character blueprint, right click, go to size map. And now this shows me everything that's in that first person character. So again, we have our blueprint, our whole blueprint up at the top, first person character, 144 megabytes. And then you can see if we go down one, we have our mannequin arms, which is our skeletal mesh. That's 138 megabytes of the 144 is our skeletal mesh. Then if we go down one more, it's using a material instance, which is 132. So you can see that the material for the skeletal mesh is a majority of the size of the skeletal mesh. Our material is 132 and our skeletal mesh is 138, so that means that our mesh itself is only like 6 megabytes. So it's the material that's making this mesh be as high as it is, 138 there. And then inside of that material gives you a breakdown of all the different parts of it. So you can see we have a material here that's 58 megabytes. These are all different textures that are in there. So this shows you a breakdown of everything that's in there. And then we have some smaller stuff on the right. And if you did want to see what some of the smaller stuff is on the right, I can just come up here and just double click that and it'll just open this up. So it just lets us dive into just that section, which is 5.7 megabytes there. And this is stuff from our anim BP. So you can see here, this says our idle animation, falling. So these are different animations we have, macros, stuff like that. And then we can just jump back. So we know that that's going to be our animations. That's only 5 megabytes. So this is a good representation of what's actually in our blueprint, the size of everything, and any hard reference we have will be in here. So I'm just going to go into my character real quick here. So we know that our character was like about 140 megabytes. Okay, 144 megabytes there. So if I go into my character, let's just say I'm going to get into casting in probably the next couple videos, but I just want to show something real quick here. So if I just do a cast to and pick my BP cube that I made. So we're just casting to that cube, the cube blueprint. So I'm just casting to this from my player. Okay, now all I have to do is just put this node in. If I compile and save it, I now have a hard reference to this cube. So now if I go in and I check my first person character size map again, you can see that that just almost doubled. So now my player is now up to almost 270 megabytes. And you can see here, so that's the whole blueprint. And then if we go down, you can see we have this red square here. That's my skeletal mesh that we had before. And then I have this green section now, which is BP cube right there, 123 megabytes. So now I just made a hard reference to that cube in my character. So now whenever my character blueprint is loaded, which is if this is the character that I'm using in the game, whenever this is loaded into memory, everything inside this cube is also loaded into memory just from having this cast here. Now, again, I'm not going to get into casting here. I just wanted to show a hard reference to it. Now, there's different ways that you can get a hard reference too. All I wanted to do was just create a hard reference to another actor from in my character. And I wanted to pick that 4K texture just so we can really see the size of this cube, because this might not be a cube in your game. This could be an enemy, or this could be something else. Anytime you have a hard reference to it, whichever one has your cast, it's going to include everything in that blueprint inside the blueprint you're casting from. That's what a hard reference is going to do. So now whenever my player character is loaded into this world, it has to say, okay, this player character is casting to this cube. So we need to have this cube and everything that's inside of this cube fully loaded into memory. Maybe if this is a weapon for your character and your character is always going to be loaded and the weapon is always going to be loaded, then this cast might not matter that much. But if this is something like an enemy in your game, that might be like an end boss or something like that, something to where you might not even get to that enemy until the end of your game. If you cast to it to try and pull some information from it, then that enemy is going to be always loaded in your game the entire game, or the entire time your character is loaded, which is the whole game. So that's why as we're making our game and going through, you really need to know what this cast is doing. Sometimes casting is fine, and other times it's not fine. And that's what we're going to get into in a later video. But again, this is just talking about the hard references. So everybody should know what a hard reference is, and you're going to have to make choices as you're building your game. Sometimes you may want the hard reference. Sometimes there's no need to have the hard reference, and if you just cast to do a check for something, then you're creating that hard reference, and you're probably doing it without even realizing what you're doing. So the size map is something that is really good to use all the time. Whenever you set blueprints up, it's a good idea to go in here and just check them out and just see, because you might want to only have 2K textures. You might want to keep your material size down or keep other things down, and this will let you know exactly what's going on. If anything's too big, you can see it in here. If you have a hard reference to anything, you'll see it in here as well. And you can also use the reference viewer too. The character will be a better demo for this. So if I right click on my character and go into reference viewer, now you can see that this is my blueprint here. Whenever this blueprint is loaded, all of these have to be loaded. So if I throw this cast to cube back in here, compile, save, and now we look at our reference viewer on our player. Now you can see we have our cube right here. So everything here is going to be a hard reference on this, and so on for here too. So in our game mode, we're telling it to use first person character. So whenever our game mode gets loaded, it's going to load first person character, and first person character is going to load all this stuff. This can help out too by giving you sort of a visual representation of like what's attached to what. Hard references and stuff was something that I really didn't understand when I started, because a lot of the tutorials you find on YouTube, they'll just have you cast to different things because it might be an easier, quicker solution to be able to get access to something. So a lot of people will just have you cast, and They don't tell you what the cast is actually doing. And the other thing that a hard reference is going to do too, if I wanted to migrate this character, you can see all the stuff that it's taking here. So it's taken stuff from the first person, which is all our input action, stuff like that. It's taken all our animations. And you can see here, it's taken the mesh from my chamfered cube because we have that hard reference to that cube. So it wants to take that mesh, and then that cube is using the 4K textures that I downloaded. So now it's trying to grab that. That's the material for the 4K stuff. And then it's taken the blueprint for my BP cube here. So because we have a hard reference to that, that first person character blueprint is now linked to this cube blueprint. So if I try and migrate my first person character out, it's going to migrate the cube and everything associated with the cube too, because I have that hard reference there. I hope that kind of clears up a little bit about what hard references are. At least it's good that everybody knows what they are, and then you can make up your mind as you're going on. Do you want the hard reference or not? If it's just the way you want to do stuff, if you just want to cast and get a hard reference and you don't care and it doesn't matter, then that's fine if that's what you want to do. I just think a lot of people don't know what the hard reference is, how it impacts performance sometimes, how it impacts migrating out different aspects of your project into something else. So that's why I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And you can use that size map to check and just see how your materials are doing, how your textures are doing, what has a hard reference in here, what is actually a part of this blueprint. So I hope that can help some people out, because that was definitely a couple things that I didn't understand when I started. And if there's any questions, let me know. But that's going to be it for this time. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.